On this episode of Spill the Tea with LLIB, we have Clare Wright. Clare is the founder of a UK award-winning art company supplying the best independent interior stores and galleries for over 18 years.
So Clare, spill the tea on what the journey as a woman in business has been like for you so far.
Okay, so I've had two careers in my life, both that I've loved. The first one was quite challenging. I decided because I worked on the cross-channel ferries after my A-levels, not knowing what I was going to do in life, and I ended up in the information office as a purser, assistant purser, for Sea-Link, which is an old shipping company. And I asked the guy who was in charge of me, how do I get to drive one of these things, you know? And he looked at me and said, drive. You don't drive a ship, you steer it. And I wouldn't worry your little head about something like that because you have to do, you have to go and get sponsored by a shipping company. It takes 3 years to get your first license, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, sorry.
Worry my little head.
Yeah, so...
Do you know, even if that wasn't a thought, I bet you just went, do you know what, just because you've just said that, I'm going to do
I did. So I wrote to all the shipping companies.
Wow.
And I got a couple of responses back. And one in particular was Esso International, and they'd never taken a female cadet before. So I thought, well, that was another challenge, and it was probably meant to be. So I started my journey in Louisiana on the third largest oil tanker in the world.
Driving boats.
Yeah.
Ships. Cal.
Sorry.
Alan always says that. I was in the Royal Navy. I joined at 16 and my husband always says, oh, Rolla, look, that's like one of your mum's little boats. And I'm like,
it's not a boat.
Type 42 destroyer. It was not a boat. It was a ship. But yeah.
So yeah, that was when my journey started. It wasn't, it was very challenging for many reasons. I was the only girl on the ship. They didn't know how to really handle me because, you know, I was young. And then sadly, we went into the Gulf War with the tanker because that happened to be that time. And so we had all sorts of things. Saddam Hussein had set alight to the oil fields. So we were navigating up the Persian Gulf in black sandstorms.
Wow.
So it was a crazy, crazy time. A bit like Top Gun, because we had a couple of incidents on the ship where we had to get an emergency evacuation for someone who had an accident. Wow. And so it was literally like Top Gun on the top of the tanker.
Did Tom Cruise come?
I was looking, but no. So no.
Imagine.
So that was a little crazy. But sadly, after that, a few weeks after that, my father died. So I found myself in a real dilemma about, do I carry on or do I just go home and just reassess everything? But because my father thought me going into the Merchant Navy was the craziest idea ever, I was determined to finish. So I did. I stuck out the 3 years. I went on to BP shipping after that. And then I had a little bit of a break, got married, and went to work for the Port of Liverpool as a marine officer.
Wow.
I had a 10-year career in Port of Liverpool. I worked in the radar. I worked on the berth as a berth manager. So I know all about the container ships and everything that goes on in the Port of Liverpool and the River Mersey. I absolutely loved it. Yeah. But then when I was 37, I got diagnosed with spinal stenosis. So it's my spine was being restricted, so I had to have quite a serious operation. Wow. So I had a 12-month rehabilitation. Thankfully, the operation worked. Had a great surgeon, Paul May, George Ampat. So I thank them for my mobility, really. So I had rehabilitation for 12 months, and I then jumped into the art industry because I needed that for therapy for my head to keep me busy. At that point, I was going to go back to shipping because I was quite well versed in crude oil and dangerous cargoes. However, I thought, I really loved what I did while I was rehabilitating. So let's see where this will take me. So I took a bit of a gamble. I took out a £10,000 loan and did a trade show in NEC in Birmingham. And overnight, I got about 40 interested furniture stores and galleries that loved what I did. So, and the rest was history, really. That's 19 years ago.
My goodness, what a journey.
What a flip as well, like a wump. Like, oh my goodness.
And I've loved both industries. I've been very lucky. Lots of people don't get to like what they do in life. And it's not been a choice. But for me, although it wasn't a choice, the path was there. It just the door opened.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of hard work on the way.
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely.
100%. Wow.
Definitely. I feel like the next question you've already sort of covered around a pivotal moment or challenge. You face so many of them.
Yeah.
Can you share a pivotal moment or challenge you faced in your career, either one of them, that ultimately led to really valuable lessons or insights for your business journey?
I think there was one in particular that, well, there's a few, but there was one when I joined. Joining the tankers was difficult because, as you'll appreciate, in the Royal Navy, there isn't a lot of women, but I was the only one. Yeah. So I missed female company, although the guys were great. But you're like a big family once you join a ship. So, but coming into the port of Liverpool was a different story. I was 27, and being obviously the dockers' canteen was the biggest challenge probably, as I walked in with a blue hard hat, which meant you were management, and somebody thought I was somebody's girlfriend as a joke walking into the canteen, and you can imagine the comments, who's let the girlfriend in, to words to that effect, and I obviously had to explain that I was the new Gladstone Dockmaster. I was coming in to work with them. And so for a while, there was a lot of, I wouldn't say animosity, but I had to really prove myself.
Yeah.
So about 18 months on, I was on duty. We had a coal ship coming out, and the pilot was just leaving the berth, so he called into the dock, into the lock office, and said, you know, over the VHF, we're just about to come round, no problem. So I went to alert one of my gatekeepers, and I didn't get an answer. So I went up the spiral staircase, and Jimmy had, unfortunately, had a heart attack. So I found him slumped between the control desk and the table. So obviously you go into that emergency mode, and we managed to call an ambulance and pull him out. But I tried to resuscitate him for about 20 minutes until the ambulance had got to us. But being down in the docks, as you can imagine, it's very difficult even for the ambulances to get down there. But in the meantime, I've got a coal ship coming round. I've got the boatmen, these big burly boatmen coming in and out and saying, you know, what's wrong? And they can see me trying to resuscitate Jimmy. But in the meantime, the coal ship's coming around. So you have to be pretty level-headed to get the ship in, because it's going to cost the Port of Liverpool thousands and thousands of pounds if that ship doesn't make the tide, versus human life, you know, and saving someone. Sadly, we didn't save Jimmy, but at 3 a.m, if you can imagine the scene, the coal ship went out. The boatmen are sitting on the edge of the lock with me, and we're all crying. And it was absolute eerie and silence, except for the tears. And at that point, they all really accepted me and thought I'm one of the boys.
Oh,
love that.
Yeah.
Not obviously not that, but
No,
I love the
but
fact that
you've
made a connection, and the relationship that you must have had moving forward. Then that's a
they
lot.
really respected me for kind of stepping up, I suppose, as well. I mean, I was always one of those bosses, though, that if someone was going to lash down a container or get out there and handle the ropes, I was out there with them. I was never, it's cozy in here and it's 4 a.m. in the morning, I'm not coming out. I was never one of those, because I really feel we have to prove ourselves, unfortunately,
100%.
more as a woman. And I'm not a feminist or anything, but I chose to go into that industry, and I wanted to be there. So if it was a bit harder, then okay, I have to work a bit harder.
No, absolutely. During my training at HMS Raleigh, I was, I think, one of 4 maybe girls in and I was a good runner. Like I could run. Not that I was a good runner, I just didn't like losing. I didn't like being behind anyone. So any boys that were behind me when we were doing our mile and a half, or when we were doing anything like that, our PT, and they wouldn't say it now, I get that, but they'd say anyone behind that girl like is doing X, Y and Z, or there'd be like another thing for them to do. So I was torn between, do I run faster and push them and then everyone hates me, or do I slow down and let these boys,
Let them
these
catch
men
up.
take
Yeah.
over. I didn't slow down. Yeah, and that was I get it, like 100% facilities, things. It's not for women, is it? But
No.
now I believe my son's in the RAF,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more of an accommodation for women now in the military, which is incredible.
Yeah, and I hope that, you know, obviously the past experiences of us being in the Royal or the Merchant, we've allowed
100%.
other women now to come in and see that actually, you know what a great career it is.
100%.
I mean, for the Merchant, I can only speak of the Merchant Navy, but for women, it's amazing. I mean,
know,
you go
across
in,
all.
yeah,
Across all.
you go in, you're treated exactly the same as the guys now. Facilities are much better, but you've always got to remain professional.
100%.
You know, you might be a family and, you know, and you've got to live with them for 6 months at a time, but you've got to remain professional or, you know, that's another story.
Absolutely, 100%. So what advice do you have for others going through a similar situation or a challenge within their business then? What was obviously staying professional and staying level-headed and composing yourself, but have you got any other advice that you'd give to anyone watching going through something in their business?
I mean, my second career, obviously with art, I wouldn't say I was lucky. I was determined to make it work because I did have a plan B, which was to go back to shipping. So I was the fact that I'd done my training previously, I knew that I had another option if the art world wasn't, you know, open, the door wasn't open for me. So but I was really determined. I thought, well, if someone really loves what I do, then I would love to share it.
Yeah.
And because there's nothing more gratifying than someone buying a piece of artwork and saying, do you know, Claire, it just makes me smile. You've done an incredible job. I wake up in the morning, I see your picture, and then I love it. I'm so delighted that I bought it. Because when people are buying artwork or anything that you've created, they're buying a part of you. Yeah, so be passionate. That's all I can say. Be passionate, and persevere. Be determined to be the best and be original. Don't follow the crowd. You know, it's really important that when you find the strength of what your style is, you follow that. Don't look behind you, because all that will do will blur your vision. Yeah. Just look forward.
Love that.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible lesson in life in general, isn't it? You know, don't try not to look to the sides at what's happening around you, look back at what's gone before, but, you know, really, really pushing forward.
Yeah,
and
really don't be afraid to make decision to do that, because, you know, lots of people might want to sway you and distract you, and that's in any lesson of life.
Yeah.
But you know, you've just got to keep focused because there's so many challenges to women. Yeah, we've already talked about the menopause. I mean, that dreaded word, but you know, that's a huge distraction, especially for women in business.
Yeah.
And I, in all honesty, if I was working for a company and I'd gone through the menopause, I don't think I'd be in that company.
Yeah.
No.
Because it's so difficult. The fact that I work for myself, yes, it was difficult, but I also have a great husband who works with me, and he's very black and white, very, I wouldn't say sympathy or empathy is his strongest words in his vocabulary.
Are you married to my husband?
It's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. Spill the tea on husbands.
But they drag you through, don't they, and say, "Come on, get a grip.
Yeah.
You've got to do
100%.
it." And although they're not going through the same emotions as you are, it's really important to try and again stay focused. There's great help out there as well. You know, we mentioned before, Davinia Taylor with her book Hack Your Hormones is brilliant. I've gone on all the wheel powders with the MCT oil and everything, and it's really helped because you've got to find things that help you focus.
Definitely. So then, I know we've spoken a little bit about calculated risks, but in business and building a successful business, I think there's a lot of calculated risk that goes on, isn't there? Can you share a specific risk that you took that paid off and how you approached that?
I think the initial one was obviously doing the first trade show, and my husband went, "What are you doing? You know, that's a lot of money." But he's always. I met him when I was 18. So even prior to the Merchant Navy, I met him when I'd already just signed with SO International, and he's always allowed me to, I wouldn't say allow, He's always
I get that.
supported me in whatever choice I've wanted to make in life. He would never hold me back, because I am a bit of a free spirit and and a bit of a dreamer. He calls me a blind optimist, but I think I just think I'm just always half full. And that's how I run with my life. Is my glass is always half full, and that's whether it's blind optimism or not. I can always try and find a way. But my father was very like that. He'd always try and find a way. So, I think there was a financial risk. That was the most thing that was worrying him. But it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you share 3 tips within your niche or your industry that you know will support any women in business who are watching this episode?
I think the first thing is not to be afraid of trying anything new. I was 37 when I dabbled with a second career. I don't think it's ever too late for anybody to, even if you're in your 50s like I am now, I would think, well, if I really wanted to go and do a history degree or something really off the wall, I'd just do it, because we don't know how long we're here for. And if it's something that keeps your brain active and you're interested in it, then just do it. Don't be afraid. I think we get to a certain age sometimes and we're nervous and we get afraid to try new things, but we shouldn't be.
Do you think that's because as women we hold a lot of everybody else? So we hold our children, we hold our husbands, our wives, whoever it is that we've got around us, we hold them and we take care of them. So when we take calculated risks like that, it's like it's not just us, it's everybody else, and the fear is more about what would happen to them. So it's a case of moving forward and saying, do you know what? I'm going to do this for me and this is going to be great, and having that communication with your family and your friends and the people around you and saying, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is what it means for the family, and this is how I'm moving forward, and just keeping everyone in the loop.
No, you're right. I mean, I think sometimes I've got 2 children. I mean, they're 26 and 24 now. And I think once you have children and you have a career, it's almost like you build a scaffold around you. Yeah. And then on that scaffold, you're then balancing the juggling balls, one side or another, and you just think, I can't balance anymore. Yeah. Step back, do your exercise, because for me, because I'm a very passionate person, I'm very competitive, and I do juggle a lot. I feel that the juggling balls are all falling around me, and I can only hold 1 or 2 at a time, and it's a tough job being a mum. It's a tough job. You get criticised for going to work. You get criticised for not going to work. You get criticised for, if you do work, what time are you spending with them? So it's all about quality time. And don't wear the guilt. We all have that jacket on of guilt. Stop it. Yeah. We're doing our best for our children and our lives, and that's all you can do. I don't think there's many women, some are very fortunate and they can stay at home, and that's great. But there's a lot of women that can't do that now. Yeah. So
a lot of women that don't want to do that as well.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to stay at home all the time. Like, no way. I tried it for a little bit with Aurora for a few months, and it just didn't work for me. That wasn't me. But if, maybe, I don't know, if circumstances were different, or then I'd want that. But, you can't do right from wrong, can you?
No, you can't.
Being a mum, I 100% agree.
But then just, also just if you have that moment, then exercise has always helped me. So I now do Pilates, and I do, there's like this thing called Booty Bar, which is great. It's like a mix of yoga and Pilates, and it's brilliant. And a little bit of ballet, kind of, it's all mixed in, keeping your core strength good. It's great.
A little bit of exercise.
Yeah, it's really good. It keeps your head so healthy.
It's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for sharing them with us.
You looked at my ballerina-like figure then, didn't you? And just thought, that's
it's your secret tutu underneath you.
Definitely is, 100%. Yeah, you definitely want to be a ballerina. Yeah. So our final and most important question of the day.
Oh, yeah, the final and most important. This is divisionary.
And I don't actually know how she's going to answer because of her past experiences on ships and stuff. I'm thinking, well, maybe I've got that. So maybe, have you always made it like this if she is a team Cal?
Yeah, I mean, but then she did come in and say she wanted coffee, which isn't either of our team.
I love that. Go on, Cal. Hit her with the question.
Go on. So, Claire likes to ask me to ask this question in a certain type of way as well, so it doesn't lead anyone down a wrong path. But I think that was because I was winning at the time, and she just wanted us to switch the question up to make it more.
That was the first recording ever that she was winning with like 3 points. Like, seriously.
I think it's carried on winning.
No, I'm winning.
I don't see any scoreboard.
Maybe you will.
So, if you were to make either myself or Claire the perfect cup of tea, how would you make it?
Okay. First of all, I'd make it in a big mug.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd put the milk in first. Then I would put the tea bag in, Yorkshire tea, I'm afraid, and let it brew for about 3 minutes because I work down in the docks. So you got to have a cup of tea that you can trot a donkey on, as they used to say.
Trot a donkey. I've heard stand your spoon up in, but never trot a donkey.
What? Stand your
donkeys are ever around you?
You can stand your spoon up in. What is that?
Like strong.
Oh, strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trot a
Can I
donkey.
ask, because you said you put your milk in and your tea bag and you didn't mention any water, so you said let it brew. So do you let the tea bag brew in the milk?
Is that how these donkers take
terrible,
it?
isn't it? Yeah. Of course, the hot milk goes in.
So,
The hot
like-
water goes in.
Yeah. So the hot water goes in, you let it brew, and then you take your tea bag out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you are a team Claire. I'd say that was a me, definitely 100%.
Certainly isn't me.
You need your tea
And
really
I'm just
strong.
about to call the donkey from the kitchen to come and trot on mine to see what that looks like.
I don't even know where that came from originally, but it's what they used to say.
I'm going to
What
Google
is it? Trot a donkey.
Trot a donkey.
Yeah,
I
have
am
a
going to
brew
say
with
that at
trot
the end
donkey
of the
on.
podcast. Now, if we get a team Claire, I'm going to go, that's the best way. You need to
Trot
trot a
your
donkey
donkey.
on it. Maybe spill a tea with LLIB. Trot your donkey on it. I love that, Claire. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for being such
Thank
an
you.
amazing guest.
Well, thank you for
thank you.
asking me.